While this podcast isn't rated explicit, the content may not be suitable for younger listeners. Welcome to Sex for Saints, the Christian couple's guide to great sex. I am your host, certified sex and marriage coach, Amanda Lauder. This is episode 371, Why Do They Want to Try That? Welcome to Sex for Saints, a podcast for Christian couples. My goal with this podcast is to help enlighten, educate, and inspire you to understand yourself, your spouse, and your sexuality better. I talk about sex in a way you probably haven't heard before. I'm bold, I'm direct, but I keep everything in line with my strong Christian values. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. So let me start with a question that might feel familiar. Have you ever had your spouse suggest trying something new sexually? Maybe a position, a toy, a location, an act, a role play, and your first thought was, where did they get that idea? And sometimes the second thought is, was that from porn? Is that really who they are? Do I have to say yes to this to keep them happy? So let's just slow that down today. Let's look at why we want to try different things sexually, where those desires come from, what they might mean, and how we can approach those conversations with curiosity, not fear. Because the desire to try new things doesn't automatically mean there's something wrong with you, your marriage, or your sex life. In fact, it might be an invitation into something even better. So one of the first reasons people want to try something new in sex is simple: novelty. Our brains are wired to respond to new stimuli. In fact, the part of the brain that lights up with reward, dopamine, is triggered not just by pleasure, but by new pleasure. That's why the first kiss feels electric. And it's why over time, couples often crave something different. You might have perfectly fine sex, but that doesn't mean it's fully satisfying or that it can't grow. Sometimes couples fall into routines, not out of laziness or disinterest, but because life gets busy, kids take priority, and the bedroom becomes another checklist item instead of a playground. A couple I worked with realized that they had been doing the exact same sexual routine, same time of day, same sequence, same positions, for over 10 years. It wasn't bad, but it was predictable. So they decided to make one night a month a novelty night. No pressure to perform, but permission to experiment. One night they tried mutual massage. Another, they made out like teenagers without having sex at all. Another night they played with a new toy they'd bought online together. What happened? They started looking forward to sex again, not just because of the act itself, but because they were co-creating something new together. Novelty doesn't mean your current sex life is broken. It just means your brain, both of your brains, are craving a little spark. And the best part is novelty doesn't have to mean kink or costumes. It can be as simple as changing up the order of things, turning the lights on if they're usually off, introducing a pillow under your hips, or whispering your desires instead of staying silent. Those little shifts are what reawaken curiosity. Another reason we want to try new things is because of fantasy. Fantasy is the part of our brain that is allowed to roam free. It's where we get to imagine without rules. It's where creativity and sexuality blend. And sometimes what lives in the realm of fantasy starts to become a real-world curiosity. Let's say your husband confesses he's always fantasized about you taking more control in the bedroom. Maybe he imagines you initiating, telling him what to do, even lightly teasing or guiding him. Now, for some women, this might sound intimidating or even a little off-putting. But if we peel back the layers, what's he really fantasizing about? Often it's not about dominance in a scary way. It's about feeling desired. It's about seeing you in your confidence. It's about emotional safety through erotic expression. And the same goes for wives who fantasize about being seduced or about being pursued or taken, not in a violating way, but in a way that bypasses all the mental load and lets her melt into her body. The point isn't to act out every fantasy. Some fantasies are meant to stay in the imagination. But when a partner shares a fantasy, it's often a glimpse into their emotional or sexual wiring. So rather than reacting with fear or shame, try this. Tell me more about what you like about that. What part of that turns you on the most? Is there a way that we could play with that idea in a way that feels good for both of us? Curiosity is the bridge between fantasy and reality, and sometimes just walking across it together is enough to create intimacy. So let's talk about the P word for a minute, porn. Now, yes, it's true that many people have seen things in porn and later want to try them. And that can be hard to separate in our minds. We might think, well, if they saw it in porn, they must be trying to turn me into someone that I'm not. That can't be healthy. But here's what we forget. Nearly everything in porn already existed. Porn isn't the source. It's just the amplification. People were having oral sex, anal sex, using blindfolds, playing with erotic tension, and telling dirty stories to each other long before the internet. So let's use a real example. A wife recently told me her husband asked if she'd ever want to try being blindfolded. Her immediate reaction was, "Where did you see that? Porn?" But after talking more, she realized this idea had actually come from a romance novel she'd read to him years earlier. She had shared this idea with him because she'd been curious about it back then. Once she dropped the porn assumption, she realized what her husband was really craving: surprise, trust, sensory focus. And when they tried it on their terms, in their way, it was really powerful. So if your partner brings up something they've seen, don't automatically shut it down. Ask, what about that interests you? You might be surprised by the emotional meaning behind the act. Is your marriage good, but you know it could be even better? Join me for my Strengthen Your Marriage class, where you will learn the tools, principles, and mindset shifts that create lasting connection and real growth as a couple. This isn't just about communication or conflict resolution. It's about learning how to truly partner with one another emotionally, spiritually, and sexually. Space is limited and spots are filling up quickly. Go to amandalauder.com/strengthen to grab your spot. And don't forget to use the coupon to get $50 off if you sign up by June 1st. Now back to our episode. Trying something new can awaken all kinds of emotions. It's not just about sensation, it's about feeling more alive. When you explore something new together, you engage your senses in a fresh way. You tune into each other more closely. You often laugh, mess up, get tangled, and then realize that this is what connection feels like. One couple I know tried having sex in the shower for the first time. It was slippery, ungraceful, and they eventually gave up and moved to the bed. But they laughed the whole way through. And the next day, they both said it was one of the most bonding experiences they'd had in months. Sometimes it's not about the act, it's about the feeling. Newness can create anticipation, playfulness, vulnerability, a sense of co-discovery. That's what we're really chasing, not just a different angle or prop, but the emotional energy that comes with being in it together. Now, of course, not everyone feels excited to try new things. For some, newness feels really scary. It threatens their sense of identity or security. For others, it's a reminder of past trauma, comparison, or pressure. And if that's you, I just want to say, you're not broken. You're not boring. You're not less than for needing a little more time or assurance. There's no medal for saying yes to everything, but there is growth in saying, let me think about it, or can we talk more about it before we try it? And on the flip side, if you're the partner wanting something new, remember, pressuring your spouse into something they don't want isn't sexy. True desire is mutual, and no one can consent with a metaphorical gun to their head. So here's a reframe. Instead of demanding the new thing, invite your partner into the experience of exploring desire. Say, I know this might be outside of your comfort zone. Can we just talk about it? No pressure. That posture changes everything. I was recently reading in one of my Facebook groups, a woman posted and asking if people liked anal sex. her husband really wanted it. They had tried it several times. He pressured her every time to do it, and she didn't like it. She had tried it several times. It was painful for her. It caused her problems medically, physically, emotionally. And she just wanted to know, like, should I do this because he thinks it's so much better for him, even though it's not good for me? And the answer to that is no, absolutely not. Now, some people like it and enjoy it, and that's great. And I do think it's worth new things. It's worth trying a few times to see if you do like it, unless it's really outside of your value system. But if it's a no for you, that's okay too. That's really okay. You don't have to do it just because your partner wants you to, or he thinks you should, or she thinks you should, or even that other people like it. If you don't like it, that's okay. So I think another thing we need to talk about is that often we look to novelty because it feels easier than working on the deeper stuff. We think maybe if we spice things up, we won't have to talk about the disconnection. Maybe if we try something new, they'll want sex more. Maybe this will fix it. But novelty isn't a shortcut. It's not a patch for wounds that haven't healed. It's not a replacement for deep trust, shared laughter, emotional availability, or consistent kindness. One woman told me that she agreed to try role-playing, thinking it would make sex more exciting, but afterwards she still felt unseen because the real issue wasn't boredom in bed. It was emotional distance that hadn't been addressed. The silence in the kitchen, the passive-aggressive comments, the lack of flirting or touch outside the bedroom. Trying something new in sex should come from connection, not instead of it. So when your marriage is built on mutual love, respect, humor, and trust, then exploring new things in sex becomes an adventure, not a Band-Aid. So the next time you or your spouse says, "Hey, you want to try something different?" Pause before you panic, get curious, ask questions, see it not as a threat, but as an invitation to grow, to connect, to discover, to play. Because great sex isn't about being porn stars or acrobats. It's about being two people who love each other enough to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep choosing each other again and again. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, love is a journey, not a destination. Stay committed, stay passionate, and stay connected. Bye-bye. Like what you're hearing on this podcast? Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Don't forget to leave me a review and share it with your friends.